In this video, I want to share with you the Path of Exile skill tree in 2023 and share some tips with you that I wish I knew when I started playing the game. So what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. Really cut and dry. The skill tree is just connect the dots. And if you're like me, you played Diablo 4. Diablo 4 for a lot of people was their first ARPG online, right? And so if ARPG number one for you is Diablo 4, I'm going to liken the skill tree in this video to the Paragon board. Now, I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to back out here before we make a new character. I'm going to show you my current character called Crispy Circular Chad because he's a righteous fire guy. It just kind of makes sense for what he is. So let me load this up right now. We're going to the Kurui Shores. Life is good. Okay, perfect. This is the skill tree of Path of Exile. And at first glance, you know, I could understand why this might be really daunting for folks, but it's actually not that bad, and you can digest this really simply. Look at this. I got circles on circles. I got little flyout menus. What is all this? What is that? Let me tell you what that is, okay? This is all basically a connect the dots from a guide. And in any ARPG you ever played, you probably used a guide. Like I make guides for the rogue class in Diablo 4. Maybe you check them out, right? If not, that's okay too. But Path of Exile is a lot easier to understand if you use a build guide. And in this current video, it's the Affliction League, and I followed Pox's Righteous Fire Inquisitor. And that's kind of where we were at before. So when you get into Path of Exile, when you're ready to connect the dots, you kind of have to know what dots you need to connect because you looked up a build, right? And something I could imagine a new player having trouble with is trying to create a new character, right? And they click Create New, they go to the Affliction League, and they're ready to go, and they see something called a Templar, or they see another class called a Witch, or they see another class called Duelist, right? Or Ranger, or Scion, or Marauder, right? Or Shadow. Like, you don't really see something called Templar Righteous Fire build. Like, you don't see that because in Path of Exile, there's this thing called Ascension, and you ascend. So you'll notice like the icons are a little bit different than the class that they represent. Why is that? Well, here's what it is. It's part of the skill tree, right? As you kind of progress through the storyline in Path of Exile, I'll show this to you here. You'll notice that the icon kind of changes, right? And so I am a Ascended Templar, and now I'm an Inquisitor. And the Inquisitor gives me like just another sub-skill tree, but it's nothing more than just connecting the dots and following a guide. So how do I help you follow a guide easily? In the description of this video is something called Path of Building Community Fork. I'm going to bring that up right now. The Path of Building, here you go on the screen, right, is right here. And so I'll set this down, right? Path of Building is nothing more than connect the dots guide for you. In the same way that a Paragon board would have been a connect the dots for you and the glyphs you'd level up and all that jazz, right? In this case, the glyphs would be like your skill gems, and your Paragon board pathing is your skill tree. So let me show it to you, okay? What I've got here is pretty simple. I followed a guide from a gentleman named Pox. Pox is a well-known Righteous Fire player, and so I kind of had the idea that he knew what he's talking about, and I'm right, he knows exactly what he's talking about. The guy knows his stuff. And so all I did was I installed this link from a PoB, Path of Building link, into, again in the description, right, the Path of Building software. And once I was ready to go, this is how simple it is, okay? You find a guide that you like, it looks pretty cool, you want to play it? Sweet. You load it up. Once you're inside Path of Building, there's a little drop-down arrow here, right? So from level 1 to 12, I click on this node, I click on this node, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I can change my order here, it doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is when I'm level 12, I have all of these nodes. Now you might notice there's more than 12 there because in Path of Exile, as you do side quests, you might get additional skill points, which are awesome. You want skill points, right? So make sure you're doing those side quests. They're very good. They may also yield you something called an Orb of Regret, which is a craftable item in the game that allows you to just undo one of your mistakes. So this idea that like, oh, it's so hard to redo your builds and stuff. Yeah, not really. Like, let me show you in-game how simple this is in just a second. Okay? In just a second, I'll show you how simple that is. So let's say I hit level 12. What do I do next, right? Well, let me show you. Path of Building has a drop-down arrow right down here. So from level 1 to 12, I did that. I got all my dots. I connected all my dots. I click on this. Okay. This guide says 12 to 30. And I click on that. Bang, something changed. Now I notice the highlighted dots and the path has been updated. Okay, great. So you're just continually clicking that more and more and more. Okay? More and more. That's all the skill tree is, guys. That's all that it is. And then at some point, you're going to see that this Templar class has options. You're going to run something called the Labyrinth. And when you complete the Labyrinth, you're going to get another skill tree that unloads, right? And so this is the Inquisitor skill tree. The Templar can be one of 3 ascended classes, right? So Templar base moves into Inquisitor with a sub-Inquisitor skill set, or a Hierophant with a Hierophant skill set, or a Guardian with a Guardian skill set. It just depends on the one you're looking for. So I'm going to say something right now because it's applicable. In the Affliction League, you might be an SRS, Summon Raging Spirit, Guardian. You would have started off as a Templar, but you didn't see Templar when you made a character. Now you know why. Once you run the Labyrinth, you'd use this. You'd have the same starting point as every other Templar, and then you kind of move on and you do whatever you're going to do. Templars start in one place, Marauders start in another, Shadows, Rangers, Witches, we all start somewhere. The Scion starts in the center. That's what this little icon means, right? Marauder, big boys there, right? All that jazz. Duelist. We all have a starting spot. So you don't just get every single node. Let me show you kind of what this might look like at the end of all things, right? So at level 95 plus, 100 is the cap, by the way. All this player did was connect a bunch of dots. Connected a bunch of dots, choose some mastery to get in there. And to choose that, you just click on it to obtain it. And that's it. They just connect the dots. And then in this software on the left-hand side, it shows you what your damage is and stuff. It's pretty awesome. That's basically what it is. So in the description again, Path of Building, download that, and you're going to be all set. Now, let me get into the game for a second and actually show you how easy it is. So let's say you made a mistake to fix that, okay? I got these things here called Orbs of Regret. And if your interface doesn't look like this in the game, I purchased a stash tab. And I'll show you how to do that. Click on the shop right here, right? Bottom right. Click on that shop. You can go to stash tabs. And sometimes they're on sale. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab that currency stash tab. That's what I purchased. And that's how mine looks the way that it does, okay? So back inside, I got this thing called Orb of Regret just above my head. I click on it, and the game says, hey, guess what? You've received a passive respec point. I go, okay. So I go to my skill tree. Okay, hey, okay, cool guy. That makes sense. And then I don't want this point, right? I don't want this point. Why isn't it going away? Well, you have to undo from the last point that it was connected. So while I can't take Sanctity away, what I can do is I can take away life. See how it kind of goes away? Perfect. And I hit apply refund. And now I can use that point somewhere else. Like I actually want to get increased mana regeneration rate instead. And I choose that. Okay, bang. And now I have it. And that's all it is. You just have Orbs of Regret fixing the problem you might have made previously. And that's all it is, dudes. It's not that hard. You're following the guide and you'll see your player power kind of creep up and stuff, right? I'm going to fix that because Lord knows I need that life. Tell you what, this stuff gets slapping. The content gets real tough. And it's fun. So anywho, that's the basics of skill trees in Path of Exile in 2023 in the Affliction League. That's what it is. And if you're planning on playing Path of Exile 2, I am as well. And I want to help people learn that game. Like I want to help people learn Path of Exile because it is an amazing game. It's one of the best, and there's a reason for that. It's the depth of the game that you really appreciate because there's content, limitless amounts of content. So if this helped you and like gave you some ideas, great. Before we wrap up, there's like 2 more things I want to talk about. As a new player, you don't really need to know this just yet. You'll ask questions down the road, but since we're talking about the skill tree, I might as well show it to you, right? In your skill tree, you'll notice like some things happen where you have this thing called a basic jewel socket. Well, what is that, right? What is a jewel socket? Well, in Path of Exile, you drop these jewels like the Crimson Jewel, right? It's called the Gale Prism, and it might give you attributes that you want. It might give you more life, burning damage, damage over time. These are all things that I would appreciate because I do all those things, right? I have a lot of life. The more life I have, the more damage I deal. The more damage over time I do, the more burning damage I deal. The faster things die, it's ideal. So what you would do easily is you'd go like this, right? Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and refund these 2 passives, and I'll assign one here, and I'll assign one here. Great. Okay. I hope somebody's safe out there. Let's continue. So in my skill tree, I've just unselected Barbarism and Life and Elemental Resistances, and I press I to open my inventory, right? I'll close up my rucksack, and then I just click on the item, and I drop it inside my skill tree. Now I have a jewel inside my skill tree. It's that simple, okay? And now further down the road, not to confuse anybody too much, here I'll reassign, there's something else called cluster jewels. So a cluster jewel gives you a bunch of different properties at once, and it kind of makes another subtree. And that can get kind of confusing, so I don't want to go too in depth with that, but think about a Russian doll. A large cluster, open it up, has a medium cluster inside. Inside a medium cluster is a small cluster. And it's other little skill trees. See how many this has? How many nodes this has? This one has a little bit less. And a small, this is a medium, right? This would be a medium cluster jewel. And then a small cluster would attach off that. And away you go. And that's really all that it is. That's how a skill tree works in Path of Exile. I supremely hope this helped everybody out there. If it did, thumbs up or thumbs down if you like the content. If not, tell me why in the comments below so I can make more succinct videos for people trying to learn the game. If there's something about the game that you just don't get, I'd love to answer that question and make a video for you to understand and enjoy Path of Exile now before Path of Exile 2 comes out and just rocks your world, right? I want you to have the best springboard into that Path of Exile 2 pool as possible. myself included. So let's brush up on our PoE knowledge, have a damn good time kicking the living shit at whoever is not on our team. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching the video. Happy New Year.